Charles here. Welcome to Backroads Living. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, we'd ask that you do that right now. Like this video, give us that thumbs up. YouTube likes that, and well, we do too. We appreciate it when you interact with our channel and by liking the channel and commenting and leaving your thoughts with us. We like reading your thoughts. We're interested in what you think and what you have to say, so be sure to do that. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing a very popular topic this time of year and as the spring comes on, and that's gardening. And one of the things we're going to talk about today about gardening is how do you keep deer out of your garden? Well, there's several suggestions that I've run across in this article here, and I'm going to share them with you. And I would like to know what you think, and I'd like to know what you do if you grow a garden, and if you live in an area where there's a lot of deer, I'd like to know what you do in order to keep the deer out of your garden. Well, the most common thing that anybody's going to say right off the bat is to put up a fence, and here we go, put up a fence. And, my mother-in-law, she has a 6-foot fence, chain link around their garden, and it served, them very well. They don't have any deer getting in their garden of any kind. I guess you could stand, run strands of barbed wire or something like that if you're going to have a permanent garden in a space every year where you're not going to be moving it and you wouldn't have to move the fencing and things like that. A good sturdy fence like that would serve that purpose very well. Now, the last couple of years, Sandy and I have used a fence like this. This is a safety fencing. They use these kind of fences around construction jobs just to keep people away from, the construction area so they don't wander over in a place and get hurt or anything. Then you can use this fence for any kind of thing you want to, but we use this kind of fence to fence our garden with, and it's just plastic fencing. It's extremely light. A 100-foot roll of this don't hardly weigh anything, and on this website you can buy it for $21.99 plus shipping. Now I don't know how much their shipping is. Right here it says ships for free with plus. I would assume that means that you would need to be a member, or you would have to pay some kind of fee or something. I don't know. I didn't check in on it, but you can if you want to. It's called Websterant Store. I'm not familiar with that. Never bought from them. Don't know anything about them. I just saw the fencing on here, and I thought, well, this is what we used, on our garden, and thought I'd share it with you. You can see how it's made right here. It's just plastic fencing. We used actually tobacco sticks. We drove them like 4 foot apart all the way around our garden, and we just ran that plastic fencing around it and tied it to the stakes with the zip ties. I ran a roll of like caution tape around the top of that up about 6 foot high. I extended my stakes with zip ties also, and just ran that yellow caution tape around the top of it. Left a door in the end of it that we could just move back and forth as we went in and out, large enough for our tiller to get in and out, and it worked really great. We were able to use this stuff for like 2 or 3 years, maybe 3 years, without having to replace it. I think we were out like 2 rolls of it, so probably I'm thinking we gave about $25 a roll for it, possibly $20. So between $80 and $100, we were able to fence our garden out for about 3 years. And you can take this fencing down each fall. It's just real easy to roll up and store. It's excellent fencing if you want lightweight fence that you can take down. Otherwise, like I said, you could put up a heavy fence like the one in this picture here. They've used, looks like 4x4s or 8x8, something like that, and then they've put wire around it or other fencing and boarding to keep the deer out. Anything like that works with a fence, but again, it's there's a lot of labor in this kind of fence. Whether it be this kind of fence or whether you put up a large metal fence of some kind, whether you put up a fence like barbed wire around it or whatever it might be, any permanent fence you put up like that, you're going to have posts, and it's going to be a lot of labor in it. So you need to be able to know that it's going to be take time to do, and it's going to be, you know, kind of costly to do that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's one of the things you can do to keep deer out is a fence. That's probably the most surefire way that I could ever imagine. And then as we scroll on down the page here, I wanted to look at this because I wanted to ask some of y'all about this. I'm not familiar with this. I've heard of it, but I've never tried it. Is to put heavily scented herbs and flowers around your garden. Stuff like lavender, chives, mint, and marigold. Now, I know that these things have scent to them, and they're supposed to repel certain, certain, not necessarily predators, but certain things like rabbits and, you know, those kind of things to keep them out of your gardens. And I'm just not I'm not familiar with them because we've never planted them around our garden to see how they would work. So if any of y'all ever tried that, be sure and leave us a comment in the comment section below as to whether that worked for you or not. And if it worked, how much of it did you plant? How big was your garden in comparison to how much how much of the herbs or whatever you planted? And if it didn't work, let us know how much you planted also, and why you think it didn't work. So I kind of have my doubts about this, but like I said, I just don't know. But anyway, the next thing, they called it an invisible fence. And what this invisible fence consists of is about 15-pound fishing line. You could purchase a spool of 15-pound fishing line, and they recommend putting up stakes around your garden. Maybe you could get some tobacco sticks or something. I don't know. Whatever you needed to use, you could go to the riverbank and cut cane poles and stuff like that to use for something like this if you needed to. You could actually use the cane poles for that plastic fencing I was telling you about. Just anything to put a zip tie on for that plastic fencing. And for fishing twine, just anything you can wrap it around and tie it to. So they suggest putting 2 strands of fishing line up, which I would personally put 3, but they recommended putting 2, and put the first level of fishing line high enough for your cats and dogs to get under so they don't get hung in it. And they said the reason you could do this is because that deer, where their eyes are on the side of their head, have excellent peripheral vision, but they struggle as far as having a depth of field of vision when they're looking straight forward. And many times when they walk into something that obstructs their way, they will walk away from it. It kind of startles them a little bit, and this fishing line would do that. They can't see it, so they don't know what they've walked into, and it kind of startles them. That's what this article was saying here, so that when they brush up against the fishing line fence, because their vision is the way it is, they can't tell what's stopping them. Having something they can't see brush up against them is usually enough to spook them and send them running back into the woods. If any of y'all have ever tried the fishing twine, be sure and let us know on that. That's another very inexpensive option. It's even more inexpensive than the plastic fencing. I thought I had found the ultimate cheapo to keep deer out of our garden, but it looks like here that if this would work, it's going to beat the plastic fencing. Now, another thing they talked about here was a cat burglar alarm, is to tie some string some tin cans together and hang them on that fishing line that you pull around your garden, and when the deer bump into the fishing line, it'll cause those tin cans to bump against each other, making a racket. And now I could see that working pretty good. I don't know how well it would work without the tin cans on it, but I could see the tin cans being on that clanging together, working fairly well. And if you've tried that, again, be sure and let us know. Another thing they recommend you could put on that are wind chimes, and I could see that working very well. Putting wind chimes on your fishing string around through there, or tie you up something strong enough, to hold up the wind chimes, to where when the fence is bumped, that it would cause them to chime against each other. Again, these are things, noises, deer bumping into things in the night, making noises, is going to scare them off, I think. Now, I don't know about these flamingos. That's something that I don't know. So just try mixing things up. If you have lawn ornaments in the yard and things sitting around in the yard, that deer get very familiar with things the way they are, and when you move stuff around, it makes them suspicious. But if you're going to do that, you might have to do that every week, and I just don't see that being a very good thing to do. shiny and flashy. Now I can see this working in the daytime, where they've got a CD disc hanging here around their garden, and when the wind would blow, would cause them to move back and forth, and the sun would reflect off of them, and that would probably work during the day up into late evenings. But now at night, again, I just don't see that being a good fit for night. But if you've tried it and it works, be sure and let us know. They even recommended putting a firewood around your garden, because deer don't like trampling through things like that. They like walking in an unobstructed path, in an unobstructed way. Here's another option that they recommended, and I've heard this work sometimes, and I've heard some people say it doesn't, is to make this nasty smelly solution. There's different ones out there that you can find online. If you'll get online and just search for deer solution mixture, I'm sure you'll find several different recipes that you could put together that just really stink. Most of them call for stuff like raw eggs and garlic powder and stuff like that, and stuff that just smell really bad. Now the next item, I could see this working pretty well. It's a super soaker, and I've seen these advertised on TV. They have a motion detector in them, and they don't spew water until that motion detector is set off, and then they spew water for like 10 or 15 seconds and shut off. So if you had those sitting around the perimeter of your garden, or even over in the edge of your garden, and deer walk near it, it would go off, spraying those deer, and that would startle them, and they would run off if that happened to them. So I'm sure that would work pretty good. It's called a Tomcat deer repellent, and you just need to, make sure you put it where when the deer come by, their motion will set it off. And the last thing here, this person said, if you can't beat them, join them. One of the things he did, or his dad actually did, was plant a small field, like a 10 by 10 area of buckwheat on the other side of his garden. And he said the deer actually left the garden alone and would feed in the buckwheat each season. So those are some things I thought I'd run by you and give you some ideals. And if you have concoctions or solutions, or maybe some mixtures, or whatever it might be, anyhow and any way that you do to keep the deer out of your garden, we'd love to hear your suggestions in the comments below. And again, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, we'd ask that you do that right now, that you like this video, share us with your social media, put the link out there so your friends can see it and join us. And as always, we appreciate you. We pray the Lord bless and keep you, and that you look to Him for all your ways. And remember, as we always say, keep on prepping and keep on praying, and we'll see you guys in the next video.